Hello. Today I would like to share with you a biographical nonfiction book that I read. Just a moment. The book that I read is called I Am Malala, and I want to start by saying that I probably will not pronounce many of the names in this book properly. The author is Malala Yousafzai, and with Christina Lamb, who is a British journalist. This falls under the category of nonfiction. It's an autobiography, and the author was just 16 years old when she wrote this book. She was the winner of Pakistan's National Youth Peace Prize in 2011, and the youngest ever nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and one of 4 runners-up for People magazine's Person of the Year when she wrote this. The title of this book also says, "The Girl Who Stood Up for Education and Was Shot by the Taliban." This is a true story that is about real people, events, and places. The story is written in such a way that it is a natural flow. It begins with telling us right out about her experience getting shot, but then goes in and begins with the background of her nation, her father's family, her mother's family, and her life, her own life. And we learn that Malala's father was passionate about education and was also passionate about the environment and many things. And they also, in their state called SWAT, or SWAT, part of northern Pakistan. And we learn about some of the difficulties of just living in that area, and then the things that begin to happen with some of the ways that the Taliban begins to enter into their community, and how that affects the right for girls to receive an education, and how, despite the great risks, Malala and her father continue to speak out and fight for what they believe to be right. So this book includes maps, photographs, timeline of history of Pakistan and SWAT. It includes quotes from different authors and newspapers, articles. So there's a lot of evidence for the story and the truthfulness of the story. Despite that, it, of course, is an autobiography. So we learn this story from the perspective of her and her family, their political persuasions, their views about their religion, their views about their nationality and their countrymen. One thing that is done well in this story is that we get to see Malala, the way she's viewed by herself, the way she's viewed by her family, her own countrymen, the way she's viewed by her enemies, and really the world. So we get a pretty full picture of this individual. And we get a little picture into the normal things that she experienced, and also the unusual opportunities and experiences that she had. This book is recommended. I would recommend this book for ages about 12 plus, though some sites said 10 plus would be okay. This book could be considered controversial because of all the things that it covers. In fact, a private school organization, over 40,000 private schools in Pakistan at one point banned the book to be taken out of all of their libraries of their schools. So this book, because it deals with some serious issues, definitely should be read, and with some good discussion with an adult. There's a lot of talk of violence, sexism, religion, terrorism, cultural differences, standing up for beliefs, education, and political activism. It's a very empowering book, but it also can be very sobering. In this book, we get to learn a little bit about Malala and her experiences with the Taliban and what happened to her after she was shot and transferred to a Birmingham, England hospital, and the support that she received and the way that she, her activism was at times used politically, how she became a political figure for her nation, but also other nations as well, and how her life, she's made a full recovery, and she continues with her activism about education for all people. In fact, on her 16th birthday, she spoke at the UN, promoting free education for all children. This book talks about how when she was very young, she began writing under a pseudonym and a blog about her experience dealing with the Taliban occupation of their area. She and some of the awards that she received, and it talks, of course, about the experience of her being shot. And then her book was published in 2013. I would recommend this book. I think that it really opened my eyes to learning more about that part of the world, their experiences, what is happening from that perspective, and how it's so very different than oftentimes what our perspective is here in the United States. I think it also opens eyes to understand just a little bit more about Islam and Muslims and the faith that they have, and how the Taliban isn't representative, of the faith in general, and how important this is for readers to have a broader view of some of the things that are happening from a different perspective, not from necessarily, a Western perspective. The book can be challenging with the names and the places, and this has many, many names of people, and that made it a little bit difficult to follow and remember who are we talking about, especially the pronunciation and trying to understand who is who. But despite that, the storyline is pretty well organized, and it's easy to kind of follow and see what's happening in the events that led up to her shooting, and some of the political unrest, of course, and some of the troubles that they faced. I would recommend this book for youth who are mature enough to handle and have a pretty, good grip on a good reading level, and can handle some of the difficult names and places. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you, if you haven't read this book, that you will pick it up.